We have the access to immediately shut those off through an email, text, or a phone call right away. That can be done remotely from wherever the person is controlling it, our Oz, as we call them, of the district. But that can be done right away. And then visitors, of course, are supposed to display their visitor badges. But we have access and the capabilities to do that immediately.
Okay, good. Any other
You can
questions?
also record when a badge is used.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Questions? Anyone else? Okay, gentlemen, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on to remarkable rule number 3, respect our finances. Dr. Kinney.
Anybody have questions on it?
Any questions on purchase orders over $2,500? There being none, remarkable rule number 4, respect individual differences. The report on requests under the Freedom of Information Act and status of such requests. Dr. Latham.
Yes, can we go back though also to the respect our finances, POs over 2,500 or purchases?
Certainly.
Could any board member would like to speak as it relates to the changes here and improvements to purchases that have been made? And can one or two board members speak to that as far as the chairs we've purchased, the carpet, the doors? Can we talk about that? I just wanna address that.
I agree with your earlier comments, that we have a lot of people that are coming through these doors, and they look at our district, and we're interviewing people in this building. We are bringing people outside the district who we want to put a favorable impression upon them. I think the changes are great, and particularly in our board conference room with the table that was referenced, it's a much more professional look. I think that it elevates a level of seriousness about our district, and certainly over the course since I've been on the board for a little over 3 years now. I mean, what we've done in this room is much improved too, and I think it adds a level of seriousness to the meeting. And to the extent that the policy was quoted tonight, I believe that does serve the public interest.
Ms. Smolkmeyer?
Well, I just like to say that I can attest that when I came to work for the district 36 years ago, the orange chairs we had here were what were here, and the table upstairs and the green chairs upstairs are exactly what were there. So I think we certainly got our money's worth out of that furniture and the chairs around here after 36 years. And I don't know how long they were there before I started working.
Ms. Ross?
Well, I haven't been here 36 years, but
Almost.
but I am the senior board member, and I can say that I've actually made some suggestions. Like I always felt unsafe that anyone could just walk in here from the back or whatever. So I suggested door security and that kind of thing. So, and I was truly tired of the chairs. That I don't get up quite as much because my back doesn't hurt as much as they did in the orange chairs. They were just worn completely out. Anyway, I think everything looks very good and much appreciated.
Anyone else?
With the upstairs chairs in that conference room, this was before you came, but when I was extremely pregnant, I broke one of them getting up. It did not make me feel good. I used the arms as leverage and they snapped right off the chair. It was pretty great.
Oh, boy. Anyone else?
I think in any environment, you have to still work at maintenance and improving and keeping things up to date so that they are practical and functional and comfortable. I work at a homeless shelter, and just because, say to the individuals, because you're homeless, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to look like you don't have all the resources that you need. And so likewise, even in that environment where people may think of a shelter looking a certain way, we work at an environment that produces productivity and value of those whom we serve. So I thank you for the improvements, because it says that you do not only value the staff and all the other workers, but you value your board members and the hours that we have to spend in doing this work. We've been here since 4 o'clock. We come a few hours before others do. So it just says that you're concerned about our well-being as well, and I thank you.
Dr. Kinney?
Yeah, just one clarification on the law. The law says that we must get sealed bids when the amount is over $25,000, but there are about 15 exceptions to that. And one of those exceptions is when it's a matter of a construction effort, then between 25 and 50,000, you do need to get quotes. but sealed bids are only required at 25,000 or over. And, you know, we're very careful to make sure that we follow that law. So I think that's been brought up for question. And probably one other example, just to clarify, we talk about insulated glass. The door system right out here and the front door were original to the building. They were so old, we were spending a great deal of time every time they would fall out of adjustment, literally in days. And we had our carpenters here on a regular basis actually trying to hand make parts because you couldn't get the parts anymore. They were doors that pivoted in the sill on the bottom. And so to modernize doors, to save energy with insulated glass and so forth, because the old doors didn't have any of that. And that's helped our building too with energy usage and a little bit better level of comfort. But that $16,500 was those 2 sets of doors. So maybe clarify that as well.
That was also a security issue as well. Yes. Okay. Okay, that addresses that, hopefully. Item number 4, remarkable rule. Number 4, individual differences. Dr. Latham.
Since our last board meeting report on July 15, 2013, we received 21 new Freedom of Information Act requests. Of these new requests, 16 were filled. There were 3 pending requests noted on the July 15, 2013 board report. Those requests were filled. We received 69 requests for this calendar year.
Thank you. Next action item is the consent agenda. Vice President Wolfmeyer, would you read us the consent agenda this evening?
The consent agenda tonight consists of the approval of the payment of bills, the approval of the Human Resources Report, the approval of the travel requests. Item 4 is the purchase of used multi-function school activity buses. The proposed action is that the district purchases 3 used 2008 multi-function school activity buses from Transit Equipment. The total cost will be $78,900. Number 5 is Easter Seals Board Certified Behavior Analyst Contract. The proposed action is that the administration be authorized to enter into a contract with Easter Seals to secure board behavior analyst services for students with special needs across the district. The anticipated expenditure request authorization will not exceed $86,400 unless additional IEP requirements necessitate service increase and the expenditure approved by the Board of Education. This agreement is funded through the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act grant. Item 6 is the Children's Home Behavioral Health Therapist contract. The proposed action is that the Board of Education approve a contract with the Children's Home to provide 4 full-time behavioral health therapists to serve student needs at Whittier, Treewind, Day Treatment, Roosevelt, Woodruff Career and Technical Center, and other schools as determined appropriate by the administration. This agreement is funded through the Educational Fund and will be partially funded through the Individuals with Disabilities Educational Act grant pending an amendment and release of funding. The requested expenditure requested for authorization will not exceed $208,484 unless additional needs necessitated services and are approved by the Board of Education. Item 7 is the Center for Prevention of Abuse. The proposed action is that the Board of Education enter into a contract with the Center for Prevention of Abuse to provide all students pre-K through 12 in Peoria Public School District 150 with effective sexual abuse prevention education in lieu of the new Aaron's Law mandate by the state of Illinois. The total cost of the program is $84,000 and is being funded in the following manner. The Illinois Coalition Against Sexual Assault grant for $22,000, a CDBG grant for Harrison Elementary, $5,400, Heart of Illinois United Way, $18,600, SEFCU underwriting of materials for $18,000 and $16,000 to be paid through the Title I parent involvement. Number 8, Richwoods High School sign installation. The proposed action is that the Board of Education approve the installation of a sign with a message board at Richwoods High School. The purchase price for the sign is $16,500 and is being funded through donations of past graduating classes and will be installed by district personnel. That's the consent agenda for tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Wolfmeyer. Would any board member care to have any of these pulled for an individual vote? There being none, could we have a motion to accept that consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or further clarification? Mrs. Ross?
Yes, question. The therapists that you're proposing from Children's Home, how will they interface with our current counselors, and what type of, every year I ask the same question, what type of reports will be, gathered from these individuals? How will they interface with the people that are already there?
They will work as a part of the school team. This is the group that presented to you at the Calvin Coolidge Board meeting this past spring. They will be a part of the PBIS teams at each of the schools, so they'll be required to attend those PBIS, Positive Behavior Intervention Support meetings. They will interface, they're just like another staff member as a part of that team when they look at case management for a particular student or a group of students, and then that information is carried back to the principal, social worker, counselors, also to our RTI coordinators for the district, and then that information is fed up through the district level. But this will be the second year that this group has been into the schools. We looked at increasing the time at Whittier based on the needs that we saw there, and then there's also an increase, where my other place at day treatment, based on some needs of the students at day treatment.
Well, I was just wondering, what kind of outcome data do you have saying that whether or not this participation is successful or not? I mean, how do you
And we had that
measure the
information last
success?
spring. We can pull that information again that was presented and bring it back and share it with you. I can get that for you.
As far as students are concerned?
Yes, the students that they worked with, the different case management, the different things they look for is referring parents out to other agencies, the home visits, the number of groups that they ran. All that information is tracked back as we made a decision whether or not to continue with the program for this year.
Okay.
But I can get that information for you.
And these are individuals that we could not hire through the district at a more reasonable?
That is correct. It is more reasonable to go through the children's home.
Any other questions? I have one. Dr. Kinney, could you just expand a little bit on the purchase of the buses?
Yeah. That's one of those exceptions when you're buying used equipment. But we purchased 3 of them a year ago, or whatever it was last fall, and they're so much in demand. We just, at that time, we thought about buying 6 and thought, well, let's get 3 first. And I'll give you an example. Peoria High alone had 57 days where they had used one of those in just the spring sports alone, and would have been able to use both of them almost all of that time. So they're good for 14 passengers and a coach, or it could be a club sponsor, those kinds of things. So it just gives us a lot more flexibility in getting kids to events, in those after-school hours when all of our buses are being used.
And these are buses, they're not vans, is that correct?
Yeah, they're those white, they look like a mini bus kind of a thing.
Ms. Wolfmeyer?
Well, and they're also very much more efficient, because we do have some athletic teams or extracurriculars that maybe only have 5 or 6, like a golf team or something, that
Absolutely.
you don't
Yes,
need
we have-
a big school bus for. So
Right, we
they're
have
much
lots
more
of-
practical for a lot of the trips
Yeah.
that we make.
Yes, lots of teams are of a size where they can use those, so.
I'm sorry, would you?
Any other questions? I would like to invite Martha to come up and say something as it relates to the approval.
Ms. Herm, would you care to speak to that?
And Jeanette.
Thank you for your forbearance here. I know this is a long meeting. You get an award just for perseverance, if
I was
nothing
going to
else.
say, I feel like I'm going to be shot here for taking more time.
You have a podium to hide behind, so.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for this support. As you all know, Aaron's Law was passed last year mandating that we do have this kind of programming in all the schools. Currently, we have had funds to be in about 120 classrooms. But your support and the wonderful support from CEFCU, and I want to introduce again Janae Stevens, who's representing CEFCU. With that support, we'll be able to hire some more folks so that we can be in all 524 classrooms presenting this kind of information from pre-K up through 12th grade. We are very, very thankful for this. I have our newest copy of our newsletter, and in it on page 7, it does talk about dating violence, and that's the kind of thing that we will be working with the high school kids on. And there are some safety strategies and whatever. So this will just give you an idea of the kinds of things we do. Everything is, can't even talk this late, but all of the programs are grade-specific, so we have something for every single grade that fits with the age of the kid. So again, we really appreciate your support in being able to do this.
And we'll launch this through Parent University,
Right,
and then we'll go out to the.
right, and we'll be training with all the staff so that they're very familiar with the curricula. So in case there are questions after we leave, because it is just a one-time presentation in every classroom, but we want to make sure that the staff is able to do any follow-up that might be necessary. Any other questions?
Thank you, and thank you
All
also to
right.
SEVCU
Thanks.
for your support. We really
Sure.
appreciate that. They've been a great community participant. Any other questions or clarification on the consent agenda before we vote? There being none further, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costa? Aye. Mrs. Butler?
Aye.
Aye. Mrs. Ross? Mr. Floyd?
Aye.
Mrs. O'Brien?
Aye.
Mr. Crawford?
Aye.
7-9-0, nays, motion carried.
Thank you. The deliberation agenda, this is for the Discipline Committee. Mr. Crawford.
Yes, item number 9, student expulsion petition. Proposed action. The board has received a petition from student A to modify an expulsion issued for the 2013 spring semester and 2013 fall semester. Specifically, student A requests that the expulsion be shortened to the 2013 spring semester only, and the student be allowed to attend his or her home school for the 2013 fall semester. The petition was reviewed by the board in closed session. It is requested that the board approve the petition as amended, with the expulsion being held in abeyance for the remainder of the expulsion.
Second.
Madam Secretary, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Costick? Aye. Mrs. Butler?
Aye.
Ms. Patel? Aye. Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Floyd?
Aye.
Mrs. O'Brien?
Aye.
Mr. Crawford?
Aye.
7-9-0, nays, motion carried.
Thank you. At this moment, any presentation or suggestions by board members?
Mr. Cloyd?
Reverend Butler.
Yes, I don't have a presentation. I just want to thank Dr. Lathan tonight for bringing to our attention, all of us who are present, some of the terms and I would say attitude and perspective towards some students, particular students in our community, as you talk about just not those inner city kids, as we're trying to really build a community that respects one another, want to work with one another, we've got to also consider how we view and respond or communicate with one another. So Dr. Lathan, on behalf of the students and the families, thank you for bringing that to our attention tonight in some of the conversations that were held here.
Very good. Ms. Costick.
I just have I don't know what I would call it. I had the opportunity to attend to speak at the STEM summer program last week to the incoming fourth graders and incoming fifth graders. It was phenomenal, the enthusiasm that these children displayed. STEM has been, I've heard a lot on STEM today, but I don't know if anyone has really said what STEM stood for. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. These children were in attendance of a program for 4 days. And during that time, they partook of many, many activities. One of the things that they did was they created cars that actually, the wheels actually rolled, and they made kites that actually flew. They did projects with arts and craft with Mrs. Reed. They studied literature. Just a phenomenal program. And at the end of the program, they were all given certificates of participation. The STEM program, is my understanding, is they're looking at combining it with the art program, and it's going to be STEAM. I think it's STEAM. Is it STEAM?
No, STEAM is where you integrate art in there, but we kept it separate. The STEM 'Cause there
It
were
was
two-
separate for,
it was-
yeah.
Yeah, it was two separate
Right.
programs, the rising fifth graders and the rising fourth graders.
Mhm.
The rising fifth graders was Step Up, and they
Step,
were
okay, I'm sorry.
a transition to middle school.
Mhm.
And then the STEM was really, they focused on transportation, that's why they did the
They did the
kites and
cars,
boats
yeah.
And the tie-dye shirts.
Yeah, the tie-dye shirts were really neat.
They
I
just
didn't,
had
of course, I
their-
didn't get
they
one,
had
but.
their assembly. They just had their
And then-
assembly together.
Yeah, they
Okay.
just had this.
Okay, and then they did have an opportunity to visit the museum, which was really, really great. So I look forward to next year and the many great things that this program is presenting to the children, the youth in our district. Secondly, I kind of want to touch bases on what Mrs. Butler said also. I do thank you for, Dr. Latham, for that correction. I'm kind of hurt over the term "the best of the best." I just believe that when we're referring to our children, that all of our children are the best of the best.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Patel?
When I was at the world's longest wedding shower this past week, I ended up at a table with a bunch of suburban school teachers from the Chicago area. And they said, "Oh, you're from Peoria. We keep hearing in professional development about they're doing so many innovative things at the public schools in Peoria. Is that true?" And I was like, "Well, you have asked the right person that question." But they had all been hearing about what's going on down here, especially with Voc Tech, early childhood, and so forth. So it was very pleasant to hear such nice things about what's going on down here.
It is, yes. Mr. Crawford?
One little interesting piece of information I heard tonight during the presentations was how we have pinpoint, and it can identify, it can immediately give feedback on referrals, and, you know, I thought it seemed an opportunity to prevent somebody who might become a habitual behavior problem, that we can identify them and put our arm around them and try to encourage that person to do better. I'd like at some point during the course of the year, find out how those kinds of, that immediate access to information helped us prevent some of those issues, and talk about how, because we are changing the way we gather information, how we are approaching schools, how it is catching potential behaviors, problems before they become a serious problem.
Okay, and also keep in mind as it relates to pinpointing that immediate access to data, it's achievement data and also discipline data.
Right.
And so I know they were really excited because it's the first time teachers will be able to see it for themselves immediately. But we have a presentation also just to kind of bring you up to speed on pinpointing the rollout of analytics. And so we'll be able to hit that. And then we'll have our RTI teachers here to talk about the whole process. It ties back to also one of our goals and discussions with the union last week as it relates to PBIS. Where is it working? Which schools can we use as models? And what schools do we need to provide resources? So that is a presentation that will be coming.
Excellent.
Anyone else? I would just note that we had our first strategic communications meeting last week. Mr. Atkins Dutrow and Ms. Myers were there. Dutrow, I'm sorry. I need to get that right. Dutrow, I apologize. Maybe it's like the agenda. Thank you. Yes, and I thought that was a very lively discussion, very helpful, and I look forward to further of those. So I think there's a lot of good communications there, and I appreciate that. Second, I did get a chance to attend the meeting with the city and Advanced Illinois and several others, including the Regional Office of Education here. And I think there's a gathering sense of the need to bring people in the community together to support what District 150 is doing and to help bring resources to the schools here in a way that we may not be able to. And I think that was a very constructive discussion, and I'm really pleased to hear that. We also had a meeting last week with the District 150 Foundation, which was really a strategy and planning session where we talked about what's the real purpose of the foundation, how it can really focus on the important and big things that they can do to help District 150, and I think that's a very constructive thing. And I also had a chance after the city meeting to stop by briefly at the Gateway Building to see part of the Harrison Elite Professional Development, and there are a bunch of people charged up in that room, and I think it's exciting, and I'm looking forward to that. So there's a lot going on. School's open a week from today. Everybody get ready, here we go. With that, any other reports from board committees? There being none, a motion to adjourn is certainly in order at this hour. We are adjourned. Thank you.